Hi, my name is Bryce Butler, and this is my video for Milestone 1. To start off, this is my culling test demo. Um, so, right now, the main camera is just rotating, and you can see its frustum is also rotating. And whenever any of the spheres get inside of the frustum, then it switches to a blue color. And everything that's not in the frustum is red, and there's a middle one that's just oscillating up and down, and occasionally it also gets into the frustum. So yeah, this is just my quick demo for the cull test, and now I'm going to do a quick review of my converter, and then we'll show the viewer demo. So there's that. Oh, and I can also switch to the camera, I guess. So yeah, here is my engine folder, and this contains my entire engine. Inside this tools folder, I have a cooker, and this is my cooker project. And what this does is it goes through the entire model converter process. So starting at the higher up, we have this cooker project, and what the cooker project does is it takes in a directory, a working directory, and then it will iterate over every file in that directory with the extension FBX. That's what this is doing. And then, so it will call my FBX converter executable, and that will take the FBX model and convert it to my engine type, which is B2K for the Bruno 2000. I decided to keep that because it's kind of cool. So, and then my FBX converter takes in the in file name, the out file name, and then an optional full path. If I guess the full path isn't really that optional right now, but what it does is that allows me to use FBXs in a different directory than where this executable lives. So I should probably change that to not be optional. Yeah, so it takes an in, out, and it will go through and call my model converter, and then it will call vodka. So the model converter will take in an FBX and output several bin files. My vodka will convert them to blow files, and then the lick it up, which will actually convert it to my B2K type. So my model converter is over here. And this is a huge SDK thing. But in a brief overview, it opens the model, and then it goes through and gets all the data to fill my verts and vert fat. And then it'll go through and I'll create my VBO lists, which now this creates the fat. So before it just goes through and fills all the vert data. So this creates my fat, and then I go through and create my VBO vert vector, which is the reduced vector. And here's the reducing. I did the reducer model, I guess, that I came up with in class that we talked about, where you save off your previous index and you overwrite it with wherever you are now in the vector. I don't remember right off the top of my head, so I can't explain it really well. And then I go through and I remap the try list, my VBO try. So yes, then after I create my VBO list, I prep all the data for output. So the prep data goes through and creates the actual data that I'm going to put into a bin file. And the reason I can't use just my VBO verts that I created previously is because it has the additional old index, new index in it, and I'm just copying straight memory. So I don't want those extra 2 integers just in every single vert. So I go through, and this is a reduced vert type. The VBO all data is the reduced type. And then I write my try data, and then I create a file name for verts data, which is whatever the name of the FBX is, underscore verts, and I do the same for the tries, my bounding sphere, bounding cube, and this is the working directory of where I am. And then I iterate through every texture that is associated with this FBX, and then I create it with the underscore text and then an integer. So if the FBX has 5 textures, it'll be name underscore text 0, name underscore text 1, blah blah blah, all the way. And so this is just an array of names. And so my output to files goes through and creates my vert data bin, and that's writing it right here. Then I create my try data bin, and that's writing it right here. Then I output my textures, which will iterate over that array of names, and so it'll find that texture, so like texture.tga, and find out how big it is, and then it'll create a buffer of that size, and it'll read the data into that buffer, and then it'll create a bin file out of it. So essentially all this is doing is converting TGA to binary. So my vodka executable can recognize it and put it into the model. Then after that, I find all of my bounding volumes. I start by finding my bounding cube, which just gets the max XYZ and the min XYZ values. So I'm doing it slightly different than the one you handed us out in class. Mine has a slightly larger margin of error, but for all intents and purposes it works essentially the same. And then, so after I find my cube, I find my sphere, and the sphere, I have a mini vex type that I created. All it is XYZ, and then a minus operator times a float, and then the magnitude. So I create a vector I create a min vect and a max vect, which is min xyz and then max xyz. And then I create a diagonal vector from one corner of the cube to the opposite corner of the cube. And then I find the center point, which is here, and then the radius is the magnitude of the diagonal vector over 2. And I create my center, xyz, and then after finding the bounding volumes, I output the bounding volumes, which just creates, it literally just takes those and converts them to binary. So that's how my model converter works. And then vodka and look it up are the same as the archiver from PA1. They work exactly the same. So back in my FBX converter. So after the model converter is called, I call vodka, which calls vodka with all of the parameters here. So it's the vert file .bend, the vert file .blow, and then the name of the chunk, and can't see it in my window, but then there's like a verts type right there. Here we go. Verts type, then trilist type. This says bounding sphere type, and this one is bounding box type. So that is my converter. So then I wrote in here. Oh, so whenever I build this project, I have post build script, which will then copy all executables to here. So here's all the executables, and I created this batch file, and this batch file will call cooker with here's the working directory, and it'll output it to a log, and then I copy all the models to my content directory, and so I'm not going to run this because it takes a while and I'm running out of time on my recorder. So right now this is going to this FBX models, so it takes all of these and converts them. So then in my engine I have this content folder that has textures and models. So here are all the models that my engine will just load up. So all I have to do is run that batch file, and then my engine doesn't even know that that happened, and it will just pick the model from this folder. So it's kind of very streamlined. And then in my engine, let's turn off the whole demo. So here is my viewer demo. Here is the space frigate, and I can rotate around it and keep rotating, blah blah blah. Then here is Astro Boy. I can rotate around Astro Boy as well, and then keep rotating. And here is the buggy that I have, and then here is the Warbear, and so yes, that is my model converter and viewer, and then the beginning of the video was my call test. So yep, that's it.